Okay guys, I'm back here today. Forgive the bell. I'm back here today to, there's no other ways to say it. I blew it, and I wanted to kind of get with you guys and tell you how I believe I blew it and how not to do what I did. And I'm not 100% sure that it's my fault, but I'm like 98% sure that this was my fault. So why don't we get into some of the things that I've run into, and I'm going to go with the obvious. I got to put my seatbelt on, or the stupid thing beeps and dongs, and it won't show me what I want to show you. Okay, I had it run a little bit ago. I did another video just like this, and I didn't like the way it came out, so we're going to do this again. Okay, here we go. I have problems with oil pressure on this 04 Avalanche with that 4.8 build I did. And if you watched any of the videos on the 4.8 build, I know there were some people who not only watched it but commented on it. And when it got to put the oil pump in, I basically just bolted it on because I messed with it, fumbled with it. I did not see a problem with just bolting it on, and now I'm not so sure. So let me go through some of the stuff I've ran into and how I believe some of the flaws on my end have come about, and then I want you guys to not do what I did. Okay, so let's start with the easy stuff. Let's start the thing up. Okay, I had it running a few minutes ago. It is 55 degrees, so it's kind of cool. It's not warm. As you can see, it's, you know, between 160 and whatever that is, 180, 185, whatever that is. If you look at the oil pressure on this gauge, which if you watch some of my first videos, I thought this gauge was wrong because these are notorious for having issues with gauges. It's showing 35 pounds of pressure and it's cold. At dead cold startup, it holds about 42 pounds. When it is hot at an idle, it is 15 pounds. That is verified, mechanically verified that that's what that is. And if you watch the video that I put out a couple of weeks ago on this thing actually starting up and running, you glanced at this instrument cluster. The camera was a little further to the right and back. I don't know, this instrument thing is dirty. I have not had time to clean my vehicles. I have too many. It's showing 139,438 miles. The other day, or 2 weeks ago when I put the video, which actually was May. So mind you, it is October 9th, maybe? I don't know what day it is. It had 138,200 exactly. So I have 1,238 miles on this rebuild. It has run flawlessly. It gets really good gas mileage. I get a check engine light every once in a while. That my code reader keeps saying something about the way that the wiring is run to my mass airflow sensor. It's getting some type of energy spike, or I don't know what it is, but it keeps saying it's routed wrong or something. I don't care. It doesn't change the way it runs. It'll usually reset itself, or I just reset it, and it only comes on like once every week or so. Outside of that, look, a GM product that doesn't have any lights on, and it's running. It's running, I promise. So anyway, that's not very nice because my Chevy pickup doesn't have one unless it's oil or fuel. But anyway, it doesn't have very good oil pressure. So let's go into why I believe it doesn't have very good oil pressure. I'm going to start with, turn it off since it's sitting here wasting gas. My oil pump installation would be, to me, the #1 problem. According to, now mind you, I put a milling oil pump, standard pressure, standard volume. So it was a stock oil pump replacement made by Milling. I always use Milling oil pumps. I bought that one specifically because it was a Milling oil pump. I have had no problems with Milling, ever. I've built a lot of old small block, Gen 1s and stuff like that, and never had a failure on an oil pump. So I am not blaming Milling on this. I do not know if there was what they call a sacrificial ring in that, because I went on YouTube actually and put in LS oil pump installation, and Milling has a couple of videos out. One is their high performance, which is the one I told you take shims and stuff. You have to take the pump apart, which then they tell you if you take the pump apart, it voids the warranty. So I don't really understand that, but let's don't get into that. I don't care, because I used a standard one at the time, and it said it had a sacrificial ring in it. I don't know if the one I had bought had it or not. The only paperwork that came in the box with it was which O-ring to use on the pickup tube. And I showed you that when I put that in. It said, I think I had a red one or pink or whatever it was, and then there was a green one, and mine, because the way it was designed for a green one. I don't think that's my problem. I'm not losing oil pressure, I think, because of flow. I'm losing oil pressure because something clearanced itself. And before I get into that, let's go back. The Melling said that if it has the sacrificial ring, you're supposed to finger tighten the bolts on the oil pump, spin the engine around X amount of times, and then torque those down. And it lines that sacrificial ring up, and then everything is set. It's clearanced, I guess. I did not do that because, A, I did not have paperwork. I did not watch another video, and I don't know if that one had it or not, because I don't know how new it is, old it is. It's a matter. Again, I'm not blaming Melling, because if you look at the Chilton's Haynes or a couple of other videos on YouTube, people are just bolting them on and running away. So I did that same thing without really doing more research than I should have. So I am not blaming this on YouTube videos. I am not blaming this on Melling. I'm not blaming this on anybody like Chilton or Haynes or a friend of mine down the street. I'm not. This is my doing if this was my problem, because I did not do the proper research. That's why I'm telling you, go above and beyond. Don't take one video and say, oh, that's how it's done, let's do it that way, when it is rotating equipment. Okay? Please look at more than just one video, because number two thing I know I blew it on is I did not plastic gauge. I had the crank polished. I got good bearings. I did not plastic gauge them. So there's another fail on my part. I should have plastic gauged, because there could have been something off that I did not check for. So again, possibly my problem. Now, let me tell you why. I'm not just losing oil pressure. I'm not losing it to where I'm getting noise like at idle or that I can tell. But what's happening is when it's hot and I jump on it, I'm getting rattly sounds for a second before it picks the oil pressure up where it needs to be. So I've been driving it pretty nice, but I've heard it twice. And yesterday when I got home, it was very hot because I let it sit in idle at somebody's house for about 30 minutes with the air conditioner on. And then I come out because I was only going to be there 5 minutes, and I rattle too much just like I do in my videos. And when I came out, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have left this running. Anyway, I get home, and as I leave it with I open the door, I'm hearing some rattly sounds. Now this oil has 1,000 miles on it, so I am going to change it. I'm going to go to a 1040. I do not recommend changing your oil weight on anything you possess without checking manufacturer specs. I'm doing it because I need this motor to last, because I don't have another motor to put in it yet. So at 150 miles, when I first got it started, I changed oil. I thought that was good enough on break-in, and I changed the oil, and my bucket was clear full of metal shavings. And I mean bad. Could there have been a little bit left in the bucket from the previous oil change? Possibly, but I thought I'd cleaned it out. I didn't remember until after I saw how bad it was, and I couldn't remember if it was clear, empty or not, but it doesn't matter. I know because I pulled the oil filter and there was a little bit on it. So something clearanced itself, whether it was the oil pump, the bearings, the combination, cam bearings, because I had those replaced. I do not know. I used Mobil 1 synthetic. Again, not cussing Mobil. That's what I use in everything I possess. I did not use break-in oil. I used standard 530 Mobil 1 synthetic oil with a Mobil filter. I do not know if that was part of my issues or not. I doubt it with 150 miles on it, but because this problem started really quick into it. So there's another situation where I recommend using break-in oil on your rebuilds. I also did not prime the system properly. Even Melling recommends this, and I'm sure a lot of other people do. You are supposed to buy, it's some type of a canister. I don't know, 2 gallon, gallon and a half. I really don't know what it is. Could even be 1 gallon. I don't know. You're supposed to put your motor oil in it, hook up to a fitting. I'll show you on an engine block in here in a minute if I can get to it. and then put air pressure, and it pushes the oil through and primes your system. I did not use that. I did, if you looked at the video, turn the engine over while it was on the stand without the oil pan on it, and it told me to pour oil into the pickup tube and spin it around, and the oil disappeared. When I was spinning it, it stuck down into the oil pump. Now it had run out on my foot or nothing, so it did take it. But then I turned it back over and put the rest of the thing together, and it sat for probably 2 weeks, week and a half before I put it in. So my oil priming system this is how I did it, and I don't recommend doing this again because I don't know if this was my issue. I left the spark plugs out and cranked the engine over until it picked up oil pressure, at best my guess was. Without a manual gauge on, I was just guessing. I put the plugs back in, it started up, I got a little bit of a rattle on the top for 2 or 3 seconds, and then the engine made no more noises. So I thought I did a fine job. But between one and or all of those, I failed. So I'm going to show you what I built to check this manually. Forgive my mess. I got a Cadillac. I got stripped all over the place here. Go in the garage here. So close. All right. First, let me show you this. This is the engine that actually came out of this Avalanche. If you look right there, those 2 open holes, see the oil filter. This is all part of the oil pan. That is a bypass plate goes there. The 4.8, 5.3, 6.0 Chevrolet truck engines from 1999 to at least 2006 or 7, 8, I don't know what year they changed, to the next gen, all used the exact same oil pan in the trucks. All of them. The difference was the 4853 had a bypass plate. Bypass. Hear me. Bypass. Do not plate that off. If you buy a 6 liter and you're doing a swap and you see these open holes, because a 6 liter uses hoses here with that go to an oil cooler. The 5348 does not. So if you buy one of these oil pans and you're not using oil cooler, do not build a plate put over top of that, because that bypasses the filter, and I'm not so sure it doesn't do other damages. So it has to have a bypass plate, and I'll show that to you in a second. I don't have this pulled off. I'm not even sure I can pull it off. It's somewhere up front. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get that off there. There is I think I said it was like an 8mm hex, don't quote me on that, fitting, very front of the engine down low for the oil pan, and that's where you plumb in that canister that's got the oil in it to prime properly. Okay, so here is my SunPro mechanical oil pressure gauge. This is what I use. It is mechanical. The reason I say that is because it has a tube, and here is that bypass plate. Got 2, I think they're 8mm with 10mm head bolts. This is what it looks like. It's dirty, I know. It's been laying up here, but basically, as you can see, that just opens up between those 2 holes and allows that to bypass through there. And of course, there's a gasket that goes there. Well, what I do is I drill down through it this direction up to where you're going to be tapping an 1/8 inch pipe. Tap, and then I tap it from this side down. And so this is how my mechanical oil pressure gauge works. I have a video I have not put out yet on using this on that vehicle, or on that Avalanche. So it's I got oil over my thumb somehow. So the reason I'm telling you and showing you this is you can build your own. If you like my Malibu, because that motor had so many miles on it, I actually run that mechanical water and oil pressure. And if you watch the video on the 76 Malibu with the LS swap in it, of course I did not do a video on the actual swap because I didn't have my channel up yet running. I will do a swap someday where you guys can kind of watch, but until that point, basically that's what I did here. I did the same thing. Now I had to use a Holley oil pan, and they had a little bit different fitting, but looked basically the same. And some of those don't look exactly like that. I think the one that's on that engine there underneath that cover is has a little bit different fitting, but it's still basically the same thing. You can still drill and tap it and put your mechanical gauge in there. I recommend if you have a higher mile engine or you're building a fresh one, to put that on there and run an extra gauge inside your vehicle. Now, if you don't want it because it's a nice vehicle or you don't care, that's entirely up to you. But just for testing purposes, you could still drill and tap that and run mechanical out where you can see it while it's running. And if you're satisfied with it but you don't want the gauge, you can always unbolt that fitting and either put another one of them on, because all the oil pans had them except the 6-liter, or you could actually just put an 1/8 inch plug, screw in plug with a little bit of I don't know if Teflon tape, but yeah, I'm sure that would probably work on that, and screw that in there. Just make sure you don't over tighten it and or under tighten it, because that could, if it pops out, you're whoo, But anyway, so my first video, I sounded like I was sad and dejected and everything. I'm trying to be a little more upbeat because the thing runs so good and it gets really, really good gas mileage. I've done a few mileage runs on it. I didn't video all of them, but I did video them at the pump after the runs. And my wife and I took it to Arkansas. When we first, I didn't have it running in a long time, and I thought, well, if I'm going to find a weak link, it'll be a 270-mile round trip. It got 18.4 miles a gallon. Which I thought was pretty impressive for interstate driving. A lot of it, it was highway speeds. And now, mind you, I have synthetic oil in all of. I don't think the transmission's done yet, but everything else has synthetic oil in it, which makes a difference on your fuel mileage. Since then, I put a cold air intake, a low high flow intake, whatever you want to call it, air cleaner assembly, and it's in the 20s now on the highway, low 20s, low to mid 20s. Like 20.3, 20.6, that's what I mean. But anyway, I'll do those videos. I just haven't got them out yet. I do have a video on using this gauge, and I'll put that out here. But I wanted to put this one out today because when I heard them rattles last night when I got home, I kind of panicked, and I didn't want everybody to build it the way I did it, because I think I told you I put it on. I don't know if it's right or not, when I did that. And there's so many fail points on my end that I definitely recommend that you do your research if you're building one of these, any of them on your own, the 4, 8, 5, 3, 6 liter LS 1, 2, 3, 6, whatever. I don't really care what you do, what you're building, but because they all use the same oil pump, so of a sort. So anyway, I'm somewhat dejected, but in the same token, it was my first complete rebuild of an LS motor. I've done lots of swaps. I've done a lot of mechanic work on them, and I love working on them, but I'm going to have to buy one of those oil pressure deals. I'm just going to have to, because I'm going to have to build another motor or something. I may take the one out of the Malibu and put in this, and I'm trying to get a 6-liter wound up and put in my Malibu and do something stupid with it maybe, or some other vehicle. But anyway, I'm going to get off here now. I'm going to put this video out as soon as I can, and do your research, guys, and check everything. Check it more than once, because this could really bite you if this is your daily driver. Luckily, I have lots of other stuff to drive, but this thing is fighting me tooth and nail, and some of it is not my fault. A lot of it is. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get off here.